Greetings and salutations yet again, Earthlings. It is July 3rd, and it is a beautiful day to have a beautiful day. And I am so grateful. Looks like there's been some good news about that lot, the RV lot. So, and then no sooner than I tell my mom about it, she brings up, you know, there's people out there scamming people out of money, saying that they got an RV lot and then you put your deposit down and they just take your money. It's like, and that man's wanting the deposit up front so that he can go get permits to run electricity. And it's like, and mom's like, well, what if it doesn't pass to get the permit? You're out that $350, and it's like, greetings, salutations, to get Earthlings, July 3rd. Anyway, so that is actually a good point. What is with people anymore? I mean, you can't go on Craigslist. There's no more newspapers to get ads from to see about what's for rent. And y'all, I did a Google search trying to find information about somebody that could come and pick up the tractions. I can't even get somebody to stop at the dump. It's on the way. Can't you just stop a second? Nope. I hop out real quick and throw it over into it won't take even a minute to let me throw my trash out so the dogs don't get it and, fuss at me over it. Nope. Anyway, what sense any of that makes, I don't know, but cyclically, it's like, weird stuff's playing out. Okay, talking about the cyclical stuff. Breaking of the generational curses. Yeah, Pawpaw. Yeah, when my daughter was born. And that was after that movie came out about Jesus that shook everybody up. It was The Passion of Christ, I think, or something. And it told a vantage point about him being tested in the desert. See, people lost their mind about what the movie was saying. They didn't They didn't understand the concept of this is what the devil was tempting him with. They just lost their mind, saying it was because I guess they just couldn't comprehend a little open-mindedness to watch it completely to the end, to grasp the concept of what Jesus was being tempted. It was just a glimpse of what Jesus was tempted with. And it never, ever was lost on me that Jesus was in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. And the people wandering in the desert, 40 years. Time works different in heaven, y'all. So, but they make a point of referencing 40 in time references. Anyway, all right. But the 40 days, Venus, when it goes into retrograde, is for 40 days, and we're supposed to reflect on what we love and why we love it. What we're willing to give up and sacrifice for that love to be healthy and solid is how that always hit my spidey senses. Okay. All right. So what I was flowing on the way down was the fact that something is hitting my spidey senses about that Uranus and all the Venus stuff and Gemini stuff going on, and the fact that we're in Cancer season, which is, my dad was a Cancer, and my granddaughter, and one of my beloved sister-in-laws, their aunt, their paternal aunt. Oh, I love my kids' paternal side of the family. Y'all just don't know. They are amazing people. Every one of them brilliant and amazing. Anyway, and creative and talented. And that my kids inherited that from their side of the family. Love them. Oh, Mama's house is one of the most gracious hostesses and cook and my sister-in-law Tina, whose husband is the one, my brother-in-law, that works at the Pentagon. He works on a base now, and anyway, they were stationed over at Randolph Air Force Base when we were stationed at Lackland and Kelly. So we were all the way across the country away from our family, well, over 26 hours away, or longer, depending on traffic. So despite the fact that we were that far away from family, they were stationed over there at Randolph, and it was like over about an hour and 40-minute drive if the traffic wasn't bad on Loop 810, 801, or whatever. But yeah, we would go have Sunday dinner with them. So we did have family close by, but it was, with us being airmen, we couldn't afford the gas to do all that all the time, and they were working and doing their thing. And Bud was gone all the time, so anyway. All right, with the playing out of karma. Anyway, there was something about our ancestors knowing that whoever it is that introduced their DNA to ours, that we would eventually evolve beyond their uckery, their nastiness, and purge out the blight within our genetic DNA strands to overcome all their low vibrational stuff that keeps them thriving and keeps us from being able to evolve. That's what they've been trying to do with the low energetic stuff. So, and when Mother Earth gets to certain levels, because there has been safety measures put into place, when so much of this is depleted in the atmosphere, because this is one big terrarium, y'all. And when certain things get out of balance, Mother Nature knows how to fix herself in ways that they could not change. You cannot undo the beautiful mastery of God's creation, because God is the very seed of every tiny bit of all of this. So we've got karma playing out, and there's accountings for all of the atrocious experimentations, because the things I saw when I was in, okay, one of the first times I had to be committed was when I was coming out from all of the cancer surgeries and coming out from all of the oral radiation in my system. And I had all of these medications, y'all. Holy crap. And they didn't take into consideration that I didn't have a thyroid to metabolize, And holy, I am not even, ooh. Anyway, so yeah, I was committed because of serotonin poisoning. So when I had all that surgery there, and then I had so I had degenerative discs in my neck that they were talking about doing surgery on before the cancer was even discovered. So they were talking about wanting to do surgery on that, and then the small on my back, but that's healed now. Thank God I didn't do the surgery. Anyway, took several years, but I had so much medication in my body. I'm talking full medicine cabinet on the counter and bags underneath. It was, wow. Anyway, all right, so they put me with the serotonin poisoning after I come off life support. I was on life support like 5 days. They really didn't think I was gonna make it. And if I did, then honestly, with as many muscle relaxers and antidepressants and antidepressant boosters and all the ones that even said that suicide is a side effect that they prescribed. And anyway, so because all that trauma to my throat, I had 2 surgeries back to back, and I was trying to go back to work, and I was using my voice box, which was right there by all where I had the surgeries, and which I was grateful, because they said I might not ever be able to talk, and that's how I made my living, was dispatching police, fire, and medical for people as their alarms went off. So it wasn't direct 911, which thank God, because as an empath, woo, y'all, I couldn't handle those emotions even on a phone. It was hard enough as, you know, the situations, because I had a couple times I had actual robberies, and yeah, but it was so rare I was able to really in the moment just be calm, cool, and collected. And anyway, reeling in. I was talking about the playing out of karma, and I was talking about the things I saw in the hospitals, because I had to be committed to come off all those medications. I had an internist. An internist doctor, y'all, is one that oversees the whole body. Why every doctor is not an internist instead of specialist, for insurance to be able to specially charge special fees. But an internist that oversees the whole body as a whole, he took me off all those medicines, and got me onto back to healing, on the right track. So, but yeah, that really put a stutter in my step. All that freaking serotonin poisoning, woo! Freaky. Anyway, so that had to work out on my body, and then so that took several years, and then when I'm starting to try to really get a good grip on things, that's when the whole 2018 stuff kicked off. Those freaky eclipses that we had, they were freaky for me anyway. It was like an underlying kickoff of things in our DNA, and certain of the different people throughout the world's DNA being kicked in place through the light signals as the planets align certain ways. And it was always intended to do just that. And it's a way of God fine-tuning us. Okay, like you tune a guitar. He uses the planet and the fail-safes that were put into play. And the whole thing about no matter how hard they tried to reason with them and make them try to comprehend and understand, they still kept doing these atrocities, experimentations. And so they saw that it was just best to have certain of their people to intermingle with them and to actually breed, because let them, when you let people show you who they are, to truly be who they are, truth always comes out. You cannot hide a lie. So, and God is love, and anything that is not of love has to be transformed and transmuted. So, because that's just, I mean, as above, so below. As without, so within. As within, so without. So, which you feed yourself, you choose good. What was you going to feed? What behaviors of your ancestors are you going to repeat? Is it the good stuff? Or are you going to knee-jerk and do all the bad stuff that hurts you? Alright, and I was telling you about my granddad when he died. That was one of the first really, well, that wasn't one of the first. But it was, he came to me before he died. It was a week before he died. And my husband, Mom was there and she was downstairs because they were taking over the house in Hallwood, Virginia when we moved out, because we knew that he was being stationed at Lackland. He was being stationed at Lackland and then Kelly. And we knew we were going to have to find an apartment. So Mom and Dad liked that big farmhouse out there, and the rent was amazing. It was amazing. It was beautiful. And it had all this land, and it had the barn, and it was gorgeous. And it was like it was $275 a month, I think. $275 or something like that. It was amazing. And rent these days, how these people live with themselves, charging people like this when our economy doesn't support that kind of stuff. You got people out here on low-income housing. What a joke. Anyway, it's a way to price gouge and greed. Anyway, yeah, back when rent was reasonable and people weren't so reel it back in. So Mom and Dad were taking over. So they went ahead and moved their stuff in, and we were getting ready to go anyway, so they wanted to spend as much time with their first grandbaby that they were able to be around and get to know. Other than my brother's foster son, Jonathan. Child will always love him. He was adorable. Jonathan Bowman, if I'm not mistaken. Can't remember his last name. Anyway, go back in. But yeah, but their actual DNA grandchild. So we were trying to let them enjoy each other as much as possible, because we didn't know when we would be able to get back, because as an airman, you don't make much money. And the fact that they took him with a wife and a kid, yeah, that was not happening. Yeah, they really didn't like that, but he scored so high on his stuff, and he went right into cryptographics, maintenance, and installations. So, right away. Brilliant. brilliant. Not even kidding. The man has always been brilliant. And he is the father of my kids. And like I said, his family's amazing. He was my best friend, y'all. I had so much fun with him. And that's what broke my heart when we broke up, because that was my best friend. And I had all the great parts of him and my kids. And I always will, anyway. So I was angry at him for missing out on all that, because holy crap. So much like him in all the greatest ways. The humor is, anyway, reel it in. Breaking generational curses. And the fact that my dad is United States Marine Corps. We met up outside of Wallops Island. It's just the way that things play out. My Uncle Mac was in the Army. He did something with radar. That was during Vietnam. And the stuff that was happening when my dad and mom were born. Supposedly, my granddad May didn't go into the military because when he was running shine with his brothers, they were in like a, mom said it was like a truck that carried coal and people. When they weren't hauling coal, they'd give bunches of people a ride. So Papa was riding in that coal truck, and he wound up getting bounced out and run over. Now the story I heard is they were running shine in that truck. That's what I heard. Whispered that the family didn't think I was hearing. Because it's amazing when you're little and you get quiet and nobody pays you any attention, and you get sitting behind a chair or something where they can't see you. Woo, it's amazing the stuff you hear. Because my papa and his brothers and sisters, their daddy was a preacher. And his mama was half Cherokee. Her daddy was full-blooded Cherokee. But that was during the time that when being an Indian, they wouldn't give you birth certificates and things like that. Did you know that? And they would go, and they would force the actual Indians that did get registered onto reservations and went and took their kids whenever they chose, for whatever reason, and sent them other places. And if y'all don't think that ain't part of the energy siphoning thing, like when Katrina happened, and they leave all these animals, and then they send these animals to different, they still do that. They take animals and send them all over the country. Anyway, and it's kind of the same thing that they were doing with people in the mental institutions. That's another thing. Okay. All right, reel it back in, because that's so much trying to unpack. All right, the Pisces in charge of the feet. So here we are, two fish trying to stay grounded in this earthly realm. So we bring it on home with that intent from the spiritual water bearer that purified all those earthly energies of the Capricorn devil energies. He purified and sanctified it, and is bringing it from the spiritual realm through the waters of life to the fish, taking it from the darkest of dark core of who we are spiritually to the light, so that the rams can take and bear the torch forward into the light, break the surface tension of the water. And because the rams are seen as the baby of the horoscope, so they are born forth from the waters of where the oceans of emotion, as Pisces passes the torch to them. So they break the surface tension and start the whole year after having been sanctified and purged and spiritually washed and purged for a whole new renewal, is how I feel that. And it's like, and Neptune is where Pisces is like the dream realm. So you got the ethereal Aquarius passing all the information that was gleaned from the previous year and the downloads of the different planetary stuff into the dream realm for Pisces to convey all of that through like a Neptunian type of, are you seeing what you think you're seeing, so that you have the new year starting out energetically of, okay, these are the lessons we think we learned. We want to make sure that we got a clean slate. But these are the residual energies that we still need to remember from that past year. Anyway, in the flow. Anyway, Pisces feet. But also they say that Pisces has to do with mental institutions. And that's because the Neptunian quality of stuff. And a lot of people being forced into institutions back in since they started institutions. Just read the ridiculous things that they would institutionalize people for. For a narcissist, that is absolutely, that gave them free reign to do whatever they did, put people in their control. Horrible. Anyway, and once in the institution, well, you had other people that were energetically, anyway, it's all a racket. Don't ever think I wouldn't. And then they had free reign to experiment on these people that were probably nothing wrong with them other than being around a bunch of people that is taking advantage and abusing and using, instead of all of us being able to thrive, having safe places to love and be loved, and encourage one another, and reciprocate kindnesses and compassion and nurturing. Anyway, telling about Pawpaw. I was upstairs writing a letter. My husband was in boot camp, and I was writing him a letter. And I was laying on a bed, and I could hear Mom and Jessica downstairs chitter-chatting, because Jessica just turned 1. And I was writing a letter to my husband in boot camp. And all of a sudden, my pawpaw, it's like I had, if you've ever had what people consider night terrors, where you're frozen in a moment and something is happening and you can't move. Well, I was frozen in a moment. I was there, but I wasn't there. I was there, but I wasn't there. And the same feeling I had when I was in heaven. I was there, but I wasn't there. And I was seeing in front of me my grandfather, my pawpaw, Silas Malcolm May. I was seeing him in front of me the way that I saw him as a little girl. He used to, when he'd come home from the coal mine, he'd come up and he'd have his cat kind of cooked. He's a big old bear of a man, y'all. He's like 6'3", solid mass. Anyway, that's how I was telling. That's why he didn't go to the military, because he had his head run over and he had Bell palsy. But anyway, he managed to be a coal miner. But anyway, didn't stop him from being a coal miner. But he would come home from work and he'd have that cap sideways and he'd be toting his round 3-tiered lunch bucket. And I'd be sitting out there waiting on him. Like, oh, y'all, I used to wait for my pawpaw to walk up. I was, because they get dropped off at the top of the road. he'd walk up, or if he drove or whatever. But anyway, I'd wait right there for him to come in. And, where's Papa's baby girl at? And I'd pop, have her here. And he'd go digging in his lunch bucket, and I said, you got something for me, Papa? And he'd have a treat for me. And it took me, I didn't figure out until I was in my teens that Papa had Mama pack an extra for me just so he could do that for me. Y'all, my Papa was a big gruff man, and he had very few words. Very few words. When I was 18 and went in for my granddad Marcia's funeral, he had a chair that sat angled so that you could see into the bedroom, and if the door was open, and there was a mirror like right here, and he could see into the bedroom. And I would stand there, and when I would stand there and get dressed and put my makeup on, because there was only one bathroom, I would put my makeup on there, and I could see him sitting right there. He had a clear view. And I was putting my makeup on, getting ready to go to Granddad Marcia's funeral. And I felt somebody watching. I looked up. And when I caught him looking at me, he got all gruff, and he's like, you don't need all that shit on your face. And in that moment, my big gruff Papa, because he stopped talking to me. Oh, I stopped being Papa's baby girl when I got to be a certain age. And I didn't understand it. It broke my heart. And then when another little one came along, well, they became Papa's baby. But I can understand now why he did that. Because my mama apparently was molested. And yeah, anyway, her dad was a piece of work from what I understand. Yeah, that's why my mother would absolutely never take, oh, no, I didn't know any of them. And what I did know of them, I didn't particularly care for, to be honest with you. Anyway, so when Papa said that, instead of getting upset, that was his way of telling me that I was beautiful to him without all the makeup. That I didn't need that. But with the way he said it, anybody else would have been, anyway, he's being mean and horrible. No, it was just, my Papa was very gruff. Very to the point, very direct. And I am not even kidding. Talk about the best taste. That man had the best taste in clothes and quality. They ran a store for a little while. Good Lord. If he'd have kept Mama out of there, it would have been a huge success. I ain't gonna lie on it. Mama was a pack rat. She survived the Depression. And her and Papa met after he got run over. And he was recuperating from the wreck and stuff. And that's when they hooked up. I don't know. It had to have been a dang Bramage. I love you, Mama, but she was something to, she was a hard taskmaster. Ain't gonna lie on it. A lot of things, I am not gonna treat my babies that way. Yeah. Definitely raised up different. And I got to appreciate that, because when I would go summertime, Mama wouldn't even let me out of the yard. I wasn't allowed to talk to people. I couldn't do nothing. Thank God my granddad Marsh lived in Oceana. He'd come get me, and I could at least go to the pool and do something there. And Granddad Marsh would go walk in the creek with me, and we would collect rocks and just chit-chat. But it was funny that we just never really... He didn't tell me about his kids. He would talk about stuff going on, but he steered the conversation clear of anything about him growing up or his life before my dad, or even dad as a, he didn't talk much about dad and stuff. I mean, what he told was, I mean, that dad was pretty popular. And anyway, he's very proud of dad. But what, so yeah, I was closer to Granddad Marsh that way. There's just a lot of tension between Papa and Mama. And Mama took it out on other people. Me, if I was there, or whoever. Mostly, I mean, and God help Tracy having to be at her mercy. Oh, that was horrible. Anyway, really working out karma. All right, and what had happened was I was writing that letter and Pawpaw came through and he held me in that moment. And without saying a word, when Pawpaw died, he had diabetes and he had his both legs amputated. So, but when I saw him in that vision, he was whole and strong again. He's healthy and his hat crooked sideways. And he had a big smile on his face. And he impressed on my soul. He said, I want to see Pawpaw's baby girl. And I knew when he referred to that he wanted to see me and he wanted to see my Jessica that I had, because we hadn't taken her to go see him yet. And I was like, okay, Pawpaw, I'll go downstairs and tell Mom. And before he released me, he impressed so much love on me and he said, be strong for Elizabeth. That man always called my mother Elizabeth, because that's what he wanted to name her. And my mama named her Barbara Ann behind his back. But he always, when he called my mom, when he was talking to her, he called her Elizabeth. I don't ever recall hearing him call her anything but Elizabeth. And that's what he impressed on my soul. He said, you be strong for my Elizabeth. Because Mom was one of his favorites. Those two. Yeah. Anyway. And when he released me from that moment, my granddad was still alive at that time, y'all. He had not died. And I went downstairs and I told my mom, I said, Mom, this is going to sound crazy, but I got to tell you. I said, we need to go see Granddad. She says, what are you talking about? I said, Mom, we need to take Jess and go visit and go see Granddad. And I said, can you call Grandma and see if he's okay? And she looked at me like I was crazy, but she finally picked up the phone and called. And Mama got on the phone and she was asking, Mom, is Dad okay? Oh yeah, he's great. Well, can I talk to him? Well, no, he's sleeping. So she didn't get to talk to Granddad. And she said that he was fine. And no, I don't know why she would be worried or upset. No, he's fine. And y'all, wasn't even a week later he passed. He was wanting us to come home and let him see that baby and see us before he went. My granddad, Marsh, came through when he died. So, and that we were living on Chincoteague when that happened. When Pawpaw came through, we were living in Temperanceville. That was right before I moved to Lackland. That was 1990. Anyway, but he passed in 89. No, he passed in 90. But yeah, he held me in that moment, telling me to be strong for her. But now, looking back on it, that's not the only Elizabeth he was talking about. he was referring to my granddaughter as well. Because my daughter named her, as part of her name, is Elizabeth, after my mother and after my granddaughter's paternal side had a special Elizabeth grandmother too. So both sides of the family were honored with that name. It's beautiful. And my daughter named her after me too, in a way. Anyway, so yeah, I'll tell Granddad Marsh's visitation, the way he came through. That was woo. Man, I wish I had all my journals through the years of all this stuff that because I wrote it all down when it was crisp, clear details. And unfortunately, all the military moves. Anyway. So weird. I need to get back to the house. See if my son's back. So, I love y'all. I hope you're loving you. I hope you're getting out and making good connections and getting tuned in and making really good discoveries for yourself and purging some things. Love you, loving you, y'all. Be kind. Start with yourselves, honey.